We were doing the chapter The Central Islamic Land, in which we will start a new topic, that is the Caliphate, expansion, civil war, and sect formation. So, here we will see the existence of the Khalifa or the Caliphates and their expansion of territories or the empire, civil war within the territory of the empire, and the formation of the sect. So, here you see that if we talk about this caliphates, they were the spiritual leader of Islam who claimed successions after Muhammad. So you can see Muhammad died in the year 632 AD. So there was no legitimately claims to be next prophets. So no one could legally claim to be the next prophets of Islam. So there was no successor after Muhammad and there was no law regarding the successor. So the political power or the authority, it transferred to Ummah, and they created the opportunity for innovation, but it also caused a deep division among Muslims. So the biggest innovation created by Ummah was the caliphates, in which the leader of the community, we called it Amir ul Muminin, okay, he became the deputy caliph of the prophet. So here you can see the first four caliph which came in a series. You can see Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman and Ali. So these caliph, they justified their power on the basis of their close relations with the prophets and continued his work under the general guidance he had provided. So here the two main objectives of these caliphates were, they had to retain control over the tribe, okay, constitute the ummah from these tribes. So here you can see that to raise resource for the state. So after Muhammad's death, many tribes, they broke away or separated from Islamic states. Some tribes, they formed their own community and made their own new prophets from their communities. So here comes the first caliph, was Abu Bakr. He suppressed the revolt by a series of campaigns against these tribes. And then comes the second caliph, Umar. He followed the policy of expansion of territory. So the caliph knew that if we talk about how they generate the resource for the state, so he knew that Umar could not maintain out of the modest incomes that are coming from trade or taxes. So he realized that they can earn rich booty or ghanima through expeditionary raids. Okay, for rich booty here. So booties here are what? The things that are taken by the thieves or captured by the soldiers after war. So the caliph and his military commander, they start gaining as much as support of their tribe, and they start strengthening their tribal strength to conquer the land. Okay, here you can see belonging to the Byzantine Empire in the west and Sasanian Empire in the east, that we read in the previous chapter also, that these two empires were enemies of each other. So here you can see the Byzantine Empire and here you can see the Sasanian Empire in Iran. The Byzantine, you can see the Roman Empire, and the Sasanian here are the Persians or the Iranian, ruled vast territories and they commanded high resource or huge resources to overtake, okay, their political and commercial interest in Arabia. So we saw in the previous chapter that Rome and Iran were enemy, and by the 7th century you can see the war between Iran and Rome empire flared up. So Sasanian, who had ruled Iran, they launched a wholesale invasions. So, and we saw that the expansion of Islam, the large part of both the Eastern Roman and the Sasanian Empire, had fallen to the Arab in a series of stunning confrontations. So here the Byzantine Empire, it promoted Christianity, and when we talk about the Sasanian, it promoted, as you know, why it promoted Christianity. So you can see the emperor Constantine made Christianity the official religion, and when we see the Sasanian, patronized Zoroastrianism, the ancient religion of Iran. So, on the eve of Arab invasion, these two empires had declined, okay, in strength due to the religious conflict, and you can see revolt by the aristocracy. So, this made easier for the Arab to annex the territory through wars and treaties. So, here you can see that in three successful campaign in the year 637 to 642, the Arab brought Syria, Iran, Iraq and Egypt under the control of Medina. So here comes the question, what was the reason for the success of Arabs? You can see one is given military strategy, then the religious fervor, that was very strong religious belief unified them together to follow the policy of imperialism, and then you can see weakness of opposition. Opposition here are the Iran and Rome. So here you can see that further the campaign was launched by the third Caliph Uthman to extend the control of Central Asia. So within a decade of the death of Muhammad, the Arab Islamic State, it controlled the vast territories between the river Nile and Oxus. So here you can see the Arabia, it having the control over river Nile and the Oxus. A vast territory was under the control of Caliph. So here we saw the expansion of the empire. So in all the conquered provinces, the Caliph imposed a new administrative structure that was headed by the governor Amir, and you can see the chieftains Ashraf. And the central treasury, when we talk about Beit al-Mal, here you can see it obtained revenue from the tax paid by Muslim as well as the shares of the booty, here you can see, from raid. So the Caliph soldiers, mainly the Bedouin, they settled in the city which were in the border of the desert as Kufa and Basra to remain within the reach of their natural habitats as well as near the Caliph command. So here comes the elite ruling class and soldier, they received share of the booty and monthly payment, ata. So the non-Muslim here comes, they had to pay tax called jizya. They will get the right to keep property, and for religious practices, so they have to pay the tax jizya or kharas. So here comes that this Jew and the Christians, they were declared dhimmis, means protected people, and given a large number of autonomy or self-governing to in the conduct of their community affairs. So they were given autonomy to conduct their own communal or community affair. So now comes the third Caliph Uthman, who ruled 644 to 656, was also a Quraysh of Makkah. It means that he also belonged to the tribe of Quraysh as Prophet Muhammad belonged. Okay, to secure great control, he started appealing the people of his own tribe. Okay, so or he was appointing the people, and this conflict with other tribes start. Okay, so here you can see there was opposition from Iraq, Egypt, and now the opposition began in Medina. It led to the assassination of Uthman's death. So Ali became the fourth Caliph. Here you can see 656 to 61 AD. So here it's come. The rift among the Muslim deepened. Or you can see the quarrel between the Muslim. It deepened after Ali fought two wars against those who represented the Makkah aristocracy. So he had to fight two wars. So the first war was the Battle of Camel. Here you can see that he defeated an army led by Muhammad's wife Aisha. So he was however not able to suppress the small group of people led by Muawiyah, who having a blood relations with Uthman and the governor of Syria. Okay. Then comes Ali's second battle at Safin in the northern Mesopotamia. It ended in a treaty which split the follower into two groups. So after the war, the followers of Khalif Ali, okay, they separated into two groups. One group remained loyal to him, and another one group who left him and came to be known as Kharjis. Okay. So soon after, Ali was assassinated by Kharji in a mosque at Kufa. So after his death, his follower paid support to his son Hussein and his descendant Muawiyah. The kinship of Uthman had a battle with Ali, made himself the next Caliph in 661 AD, founding the Umayyad dynasty which lasted till 750 AD. So now comes the Umayyads and the centralization of polity. So here you can see under the Umayyad, a prosperous clan of Quraysh tribe, second round of consolidations took place here. So here you can see the fourth Caliph rule ended now. In place of that, we can see increasingly authoritarian polity. Authoritarian polity it is characterized by strong central power, and if we talk about the political freedom, it is limited and they rule according to their own law. So the political measure taken by Umayyad to consolidate their empire or leadership within Ummah. So first Umayyad Caliph Muawiyah moved his capital to Damascus. Okay. He adopted the court ceremony and administrative institutions, okay, of the Byzantine Empire. He also introduced hereditary successions and persuaded the leading Muslim to accept his son as heir. So when we talk about centralization of authority, so this as you can see, hereditary succession, imperial power, okay, authoritarian polity, it would be continue after the decline of Umayyad. Okay. So these innovations that was adopted by caliphs who followed him and allowed the Umayyad to rule for over 90 years. So Umayyad state was imperial. Okay. State no longer directly based on Islam but running in the support of the Syrian troops. So when we talk about this imperial, it means that there is a monarchical rule or rule by the emperor. So here we saw that this Umayyad Muawiyah, okay, who are having the blood relation with the third Caliph Uthman, they had a battle with Ali. Ali was the fourth Caliph, okay, and Muawiyah became the next Caliph, okay, founding the Umayyad dynasty. So when he founded the Umayyad dynasty. So here you can see he took some political measures, okay, that we discussed, that shifting of capital to Damascus, and then the court ceremony, and then introduction of hereditary successions, okay, that persuaded that leading Muslim to accept his son as a heir, okay, or successors. So these political measures were followed after the Umayyad dynasty or empire. So here comes, and if we talk about Umayyad's imperial state, so you know that it is no longer directly based on what? Islam, okay, but it was running in the support of the Syrian troops, and that we see in the administration also. And you saw that he adopted the court ceremony and administrative institutions of Byzantine Empire. So here you will find that in the administration also there were the Christians as an advisor, okay, as well as Zoroastrian scribes and bureaucrats. So however, this Islam, they continue to provide legitimacy to the rules. The Umayyads, you can see, always appealed for unity, and they suppressed the rebellion in the name of Islam. Here you can see during the reign of Abd al-Malik and his successor, both the Arab and Islam Okay, Islamic identified were emphasized. So the policy of Abd al-Malik to keep alive both the identity, here identity of Arab and identity of Islam, okay, that we saw in the reign of Abd al-Malik. So he made Arabic as an official language or administrative language, and you can see introduction of the Islamic coins. Here you can see the gold coin dinar and silver dirham that was circulating in the caliphates were copy of Byzantine and Iranian coins. Okay, denarius or drachmi. Denarius and drachmi with symbols. You can see here there is a symbol of cross and fire altar. And when we talk about the inscription in the coin, it's in Greek and Pahadia or in Iranian languages. So the symbols were removed and the coin now carried Arabic inscriptions. So Abd al-Malik, he made a highly visible contribution to the development of an Arabic Islam identity by building the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. Okay. So here you can see the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem made by Abd al-Malik. So we saw that the gold dinar and silver dirham that was circulating in the caliphates were the copy of the Byzantine and Iranian. And even if we talk about the inscription was of Iranian languages. So here you will find in this paragraph that Abd al-Malik coin is reform. So here you can see three coins. Okay, specimen. You can see the transition from Byzantine to Arabic and Islamic. Okay, coinage. So here first coin you can see that Byzantine gold solidus. Okay, that is showing the Emperor Heraclius and his two sons. Then comes on the second coin. Here you can see a man with beard and long hair. Caliph. He is dressed in traditional Arab robes, or it's meaning you can see a loose garment which covered him. And then again this is unique because later they developed an antipathy here is toward the representation of living being in art and craft. Okay. Now you can see a reformed dinar which was purely epigraphic. You can see inscription inscribed here. It carried the kalima, there is no God but Allah and he has no partner, Sharik. So here you can see this reform of coinage proved so successful that for hundreds of years, okay, the coin was struck according to the pattern and weight of third specimen. So here you can see that if we talk about the reform made in the coin, it was so successful that it was followed after the pattern, and the weight of the coin was followed after you can see after 100 years also it was in circulation. So now come the Abbasid revolutions. So these Abbasids, they are the descendant of Abbas, the prophet uncle. Okay, here you can see it was portrayed that these Umayyad regimes are evil and promises a restoration of the original Islam of the prophet. It means that if they will remove the regime of Umayyad, they will restore the Islam again in this region, okay, on the empire. So here you can see the Abbasids, okay, they broke in the region, okay, of Khurasan, that is eastern Iran. Here you can see they broke in the region of Khurasan in the eastern Iran, okay, which had a mixed Arab Iranian population which could be mobilized for various reasons. So here you can see the Arab soldiers in Khurasan were mostly from Iraq, and they were resented against the dominance of Syria. So here you can see the support of the dissident groups. When we talk about this Abbasid movements, you can find that they were getting the support of the dissident groups. Okay, who were the dissident groups here? You can see Arab of Khurasan, they dislike Umayyad, the Syria dominance. Okay, and then here you can see Iranian Muslim Mawali. So the Arab soldier, okay, you can see in Khurasan are mostly from Iraq, and they were resented against the dominance of the Syria. So the Arab civilization, the civilian of Khurasan disliked the Umayyad regime for having made promises of tax concessions and privileges which were not fulfilled. So a well organized movement, here you can see Dawa brought down the Umayyad and replaced them with another family of Makkah origin, that was the Abbasid. Okay, in 750. So these Abbasid, they got the support of the various dissented groups who were against of Umayyad and the dissatisfied groups, and they promised them to that a Masiha or Mahdi from the family of Prophet Ahl al-Bayat, okay, would liberate them from the oppressive Umayyad regime. So their army was led by an Iranian slave. When we talk about this movement, the army was led by an Iranian slave called Abu Muslim, who defeated the last Umayyad ruler Marwan in a battle at the river Jab. So under this Abbasid rule, this Arab influence, it declined while the importance of Iranian culture increased. The Abbasid, they established the capital at Baghdad near the ruined city Ctesiphon. So army and the bureaucrats were organized on a non-tribe basis to ensure great participation in Iran and Khurasan. So here come the Abbasid rulers. They strengthened the religious status of caliphates and even the function of the caliphates, and patronized Islamic institutions and the scholars. To retain the they retained the centralized nature of the state, the political structure and the functions. They maintained the magnificent imperial architecture and elaborate court ceremonial of the Umayyad Byzantine court ceremony. So here you see that the regime, which took pride in having brought down the monarchy, found itself compelled to establish the monarchy again.